Hello all, welcome to this session of openmentor.net. In this we are going to see supply chain management. This is session 2. In the previous session of supply chain management, we have talked about what is SCM, what is the need for SCM, and some of the basic components of SCM. In this we are going to see some more modules involved in SCM, and SCM is the core of business. The fundamental point in SCM is source the material, plan what you are going to produce, then produce the material, the finished good, then store it, move it, and then sell it. So the raw material, which is a source, which is getting transformed to a finished good from its origin of production to the point of sale. So the entire supply chain management is covering this whole source, plan, produce, store, move, and then sell. Again, this move is not an independent item that happens only here. From source to production plant, it moves. From production plant to storage, it moves. From storage to retailers, it moves. So the movement is not just one-time activity, it happens every now and then. That movement itself is called logistics. This itself is separate industry. We will have a separate webinar, in fact multiple sessions on logistics alone. But here in this, the focus remains on supply chain management, the overall picture. Now if you look here in supply chain management, there are certain things. Let us first list in the industries that require supply chain management. Anything in the manufacturing sector, it needs supply chain management. Anything, this manufacturing may be mechanical industry or electronics industry, right, or pharma industry. Again, chemicals need to move from one place to place, and finally it gets transformed to tablets and tonics. Whereas, do we need supply chain management education? No need. Do you need a supply chain management in insurance? No need. Do we have information technology services? We don't need. Whereas when it comes to computers, which come under electronics industry, that needs supply chain management. Do we need supply chain management in banking? No. So wherever there is a physical material, right, and movement of that physical material, then you need supply chain management. In banking, insurance, education, everywhere you need. The supply chain is restricted to only the stationary items, books, pens, pencils, that's all. It really doesn't require a whole lot of physical movement of goods. So manufacturing industry definitely needs supply chain management. Pharma industry, electronics industry, where there's a production of a material, and food and agriculture, right, this requires supply chain management. What other industry you need? Infrastructure. When you say infrastructure, moving cement, moving steel rods, bricks, sand, it needs supply chain management, right? Wherever there's a physical movement of goods in large scale, you need supply chain management. You'll be seeing multiple examples. Now in supply chain management, since it involves physical goods, it needs to be looked at a long term, and you need local vendors. Without local vendors, supply chain management cannot be successful. You cannot be dependent only on global vendors, but when item A has to move from one bank of this river to the other bank of this river, then you need a local guy to move that. You cannot expect a guy from Japan to move that in America. It is very difficult. So supply chain management requires long-term focus. Supply chain management requires lots and lots of local vendors. These vendors are also known as suppliers. Okay. Now there are three parts from the management angle. From management angle, we need to look at strategic items, tactical items, then operational items. Why do we need all these three items from the bird's eye view, from the top management view? Let me give an example. Strategic. Strategic meaning long term, right? Large scale, right? Many vendors in place. If you are looking at only one single geography, maybe a single town or a single state, one or two vendors, limited capacity, then it may not be strategic. But I need to move certain items across India. India is a huge space, and you have got so many states, so many languages, so many rivers crossing, right? So many terrains on the surface of the earth. So you need some long-term items which need to be addressed in terms of strategic. One of the strategic things will be like, you can have for example, I want to move large scale items, so you may have a separate terms with Indian Railways, right? As a single largest supplier of cement or whatever, you may have a separate term with Indian Railways or local lorry transport companies, right? That means you don't look at 1 year, 2 years, you are looking at decades, 1 or 2 decades of existence and sustaining your business. Very large scale. I need to move some 2 million tons of steel rods every year. It is a mammoth task. You cannot so easily do this. So the strategic things are like, you need to identify. Again, it is very unique to every industry. When I say it's strategic, I can give you one other example in from the agricultural space. Suppose we need, suppose one of your industries is operating in say wheat or say cornflakes. Assume that you are making cornflakes, then you need to identify corn vendors, right? Corn vendors are available only in certain geographic spaces, and you need to have a lot of relationship. Relationship is vital in strategy. That means you can rely on their banking, their support on a long term, maybe decades. When you say tactical, right? Tactical items will be, right, special contract terms based on seasons, right? If it is a rainy season, you may have a separate contract and pricing with them, so that you ensure that you get constant supply, right? And your price is not going way beyond your expectations. Special contract terms. Then some of the tactical items will be like backup vendors, right? You may source from different vendors, but primary vendors and backup vendors, these are all tactical items, so that these tactical items will help in near short term, maybe 1 quarter, 2 quarters. There are certain things called operational. Operationals are daily issues or tasks. For example, I need to move this item from this to this as an extraordinary transfer from one warehouse to another warehouse. On that day, your contract may not be covering your best vendor, or the best vendor may not be in a position to service you because that vendor's capacity is full. So you may have to use some other method on that day to solve the problems. So operational issues and then problems localized. For example, today is an election in one state. On that day, it may be first 3 or 4 hours the traffic may not be moving fast, right? Or you are giving, the local transportation vendor is giving half a day or 4-hour permission to all the drivers and people, so you will be delayed by 4 hours. In those kind of situations, what are you going to do? Those are all operational issues. So supply chain management should address strategic items, tactical items, operational items. Of all the things, operations are the most tough ones to manage, because every day is different. Suddenly in one area you will get a storm, in another area you may get flood, right? There will be a lot of issues. So every day is different. So the operational managers, they have to solve problems very, very quickly. And most importantly, again, at the operational levels also, the individual relationship is going to play a major role. Now, supply chain management, what all the modules, I would say specific modules and inputs that are used in supply chain management, right? Very specifically talking about these modules, when we source, everywhere you need to ask from where, how much I am going to source, from whom, right? Whom, who, all these things you need to answer, because the location and the quantity, they play a vital role. So sourcing needs to happen in this. So in the sourcing module, what is very specifically required is the demands data. For example, we are supposed to produce, say, 100,000 2 pounds packages of cornflakes. Then someone has to sit in your planning division to say, this demand is based on various surveys we conducted in so many areas. So the demands data is one of the very, very specific inputs from the field to the sourcing agency, right? Then demand data can be definite orders booked. Your customers might have already asked, okay, you need to supply 50,000 packets before August. So you have orders already booked. And another thing is called the forecast. Based on the existing demand, your sales team might be forecasting, okay, we may need some more thing in the near future. So the demands data can be based on definitive orders, or it can be based on forecast. This is one of the information. And another thing is planning. For planning, you need to have capacity to build. You need to know the current capacity to build. Suppose you have a factory or you have got two plants which produce cornflakes, and per day each one can do only 1000. That means in a single day you can produce only 2000 packets, but your forecast is before August 50,000. And that means from now, today is May, right? You have got June, July, August, 3 months you can maximum produce 6,000, but your demand is 50,000. What are you going to do? So capacity to build currently, and how can you increase capacity, right? So planning will need to work on the capacity of the things. Also for the planning, sourcing is the input. So how many items I am getting, or how much of corn I am getting from my current suppliers, that is also another thing, right? So planning will work on what is my input from my vendors and what is the demand. They will work on that. Then once this is done, the production department specifically needs to go based on plan. At the same time, they need to ensure quality check and what to do with returns. Suppose because of quality issues, if they are returned, what to do, the production department needs to address that. When it comes to accounting, they need to know the taxation across geographies. The taxation varies from state to state, country to country. So when you are moving goods from one place to the other, right, you'll get so many things: sales tax, octroi, maybe check post costs or insurance cost, and then value added tax for finished goods. So everywhere the taxation varies from time to time, from place to place, from country to country. So your accounting department needs to work on every item, and immediate government orders based on something, it needs to work on taxation across geographies, right? And accounting department and finance department needs to specifically work on very specific price shoot up. Suddenly petrol or diesel is going to cost more. How are you going to address that? Is it covered? Are you covered for that? Right? So the finance department needs to work on price risks. Accordingly, they need to inform the planning and sourcing people, and at all the time you need to keep your customers as well as suppliers happy, right? And when it comes to distributors, right? When it comes to distributors, you are going to dump all your items into the distributors area, and distributors need to have storage cost, right? Insurance, right? They need to have planning based on the storage cost, based on the movement cost. They need to have something work out. Then when it comes to logistics, right, at every stage, what is the cost? Who are all the logistic vendors, right? Are they reliable? Most importantly, what is the loss in transport? Many times there may be accidents happening, or perishables getting delayed. For example, you take milk and you are transporting milk across 200 kilometers or 200 miles. It takes about, say, 4 hours or 5 hours. During that 5 hours, what is the loss? Or you are transporting flowers. What is the cost of refrigeration and then transporting, and what is the loss? That logistics department needs to work on. But if you look at this from sourcing to logistics, everywhere the cost is getting added over and over and over. Finally, then distribute that cost to consumers. You cannot charge one consumer for that entire cost, so you need to have, suppose you are supplying your cost of production is say of 100,000 cornflakes packets is going to be say $1 million, and you are selling it at 1 million, you don't make money because you incur logistics cost. So production cost plus logistics cost, storage cost, loss of returns, finally all those things need to be calculated and distribute that. So your cost of production will be equal to say $10 per packet. Then overheads, when I say overheads, equal to say $2 per packet. Then ultimately cost of production plus overheads plus margin, right, will be given to customer. So ultimately customer bears it. But only thing is how well you are able to mass produce, how well you are able to manage your margins is the key. This is the trick in supply chain. You cannot so easily do that. In 1 year your trick may work very well, next year it may not work very well. So it changes dynamically every day, in every state, in every country, in every geography, for every material. In 1 year there will be too much of production. In 1 year you will have shortage in production. In 1 year you have got too much demand, unable to supply. In another year you will have less demand but supply is more. So it changes every year, every day. So supply chain management is highly dynamic. Okay, with this I will stop this session. From the next session onwards we will take each module, sourcing, planning, etc., etc., and then deal it in detail. Thank you.